Well, I am doubly pleased today because I appear to have finally figured out a workaround for this annoying problem that's been vexing me for so long. But I'm actually even more excited to welcome back Michael Barden. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Jason.
It's good to
Thanks
see
for having
you.
me back on. Appreciate it.
You're looking well. And of course, people who watch Crowdsource the Truth regularly, I do have a delay, so some words are difficult for me to get through. People who watch us regularly will remember that in our last conversation, the internet performance deteriorated to such a ridiculously unusable slow speed that we basically could barely have a conversation. So I'm glad to see that you're back on, and of course you and I have been in communication and exchanging messages. You've been sending me some really interesting information as far as the results of some speed tests at the internet there that you're using, and it's quite fast, 90 megabits per second on the download, 22 megabits per second on the upload. So of course that's probably something on the order of 10 to 50 times the speed that would be required to do this type of Skype conversation, and I anticipate no problems. I'm sure what we had last time was just coincidental computer glitches, right?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Now, there's a couple things I want to talk to you about today, Michael, because when we last spoke, you were in the midst of a court case. You told us about how there was an auto accident or something like that. Fill us in briefly for what the circumstances were. You had a GPS ankle monitor, and let us know what's happened since the previous conversation.
Last time I talked to you, it was the day before my court trial, not my trial, but the court being seen in court. Yeah. And I was supposed to either accept a plea deal or decide to go to trial. And my attorney had promised me over and over, okay, if you take this current plea deal, you're going to be on probation for a couple of years. Now I haven't done what they're charged me for. So what, in my mind, the way this should work is I should be going to trial. They should be looking at some evidence and just dropping the case. But they're asking me to take this plea deal. And they kept saying, okay, if you take this plea deal, there will be no prison involved. You don't have to go to prison. And they kept saying that term over and over. So I get there that morning, and I'm just ready to just go ahead and accept the plea deal. And as I'm reading through it, it states that there is 6 months to a year in jail, possibly with this plea deal. And I thought, wait, they said that I wouldn't be locked up. And then it dawned on me, oh, they did like the car dealership thing. They said there would be no prison, but they didn't mention there would be a possibility of jail.
Oh. So in other words, prison is a federal penitentiary. Jail is they're just going to, for 6 months, stick you in some local cell.
Correct. Yes.
But to the user, it's virtually indistinguishable.
No, yeah, it would ruin me either way. It would ruin my business. I would,
your family.
Care of my kids, same thing. So I had to make a split decision that morning, within minutes of what I was going to do. I was told by my attorney, there's no way for me to not say anything negative about this guy.
Which guy? Your attorney?
My attorney told me when I paid him an initial amount, and he said, hey, it's like a one-stop shop. You pay this amount if you take a plea deal. It's the same amount if you go to trial. We stick with you through trial. And I thought, hey, that's who I'm going to go with. This guy's like freedom for attorney or attorneys for freedom, gun rights kind of person. Seemed like my kind of guy. And then I said, okay, I can't take this plea deal. I can't risk going to jail for 6 months to a year for something I didn't do. We should be investigating the guy that did this and the stalking and everything. But I said, no, I'm not going to sign that. I'm not going to take this. We're going to have to go to trial. And he says, well, that's going to be about another $25,000.
Wow.
It says right there in the contract, and you're going to need to pay that to me by the end of the day if we go ahead and go to trial.
What?
So I got stuck in this position of I am out of money. I don't have enough money to afford to go through the trial. I've been completely tapped through this targeting program and all of the different things they do to you financially. And yeah, I actually went into his office today and told these people that I was going to be on your show. Go ahead and watch it.
So this is the website that I've got right here?
Yeah, that's him. So, and he actually is the, I just found this out recently, he is the president of the State Bar Association here in Arizona. So he's got some pull in Arizona, and that's Mark Victor there in the middle with the red tie, and Andy Marcantel on the right. These are both people that have showed up to court with me and been working with me. I would say working with me. It's felt like they have been working against me the entire time.
Wow.
I actually just threw a YouTube comment. Somebody commented on a YouTube video that I put up and said, ask for a motion discovery. And I researched what a motion discovery was, and I realized that's standard operating procedure in a criminal case where the attorney does a motion discovery. They get all of the information from the other side, so you know what's been said, what videos are there, what audio recordings, the police body camera footage, all of that stuff.
Body camera footage from the incident that you've been implicated in. Take us back for just a second. Remind us exactly what happened that got you into this situation.
Well, I was being stalked and harassed like I had been on a normal basis for, well, a very long time. I just realized what it actually was in end of April, beginning of May of 2017. I started documenting in November, and then uploaded the video of the police officer at the convenience store of me questioning the police officer, asking about organized stalking and harassment, what they could do. She was laughing at me. So this was 3 weeks after that video was uploaded. One of these groups of people, and they're usually all driving the same color cars. You'll get to a parking lot, they'll be there waiting. As you exit your vehicle, they'll get out of their vehicle at the exact same time, follow you into the store, and they'll just kind of lurk around. Like they don't have any intention of being in the store to shop, to look for what they're looking for, to, just acting like a normal person does. They will linger around. They'll do really odd things. They have really odd behavior to get your attention. And that's what was going on this morning of this incident. And I'd been doing some field investigation. I've been getting license plates. I'd been getting information on the side of vehicles, trying to video some of these people so I could see, if there's anybody that's been a repetitious stalker. And I followed this guy. Well, as there's one of the things that they do too. It's kind of hard to tell the whole thing all in a short amount of time. But as you leave the store, they'll leave at the exact same time that you do. They'll get in their vehicle, and as you back out and you're trying to leave, they'll put their reverse lights on and then start backing up right as you're going by to make it seem like they're going to run into you. And this is something that happens every single day. That happens in parking lots. Somebody's not paying attention, they'll back out and, oh, sorry about that. But these people will do it over and over and over and over every single day. Do the same thing at stop signs. So it was obvious to me that these people were part of an organized group that were harassing me. The first car puts the reverse lights on, and I have the video of this, puts the reverse lights on, starts backing up like they're going to hit me. I go around the corner, and the truck, the guy that made the report on me, starts backing out like he's going to back into me. And just completely, if I wouldn't have stopped, he would have ran into me.
Huh.
So I followed him out, took a left, got up next to him, and I was reading the side of his vehicle that said what company he worked for. I got his license plate, and I had already had my windows down because it was a nice morning. It's Arizona in January. You can do that here. And he rolled down his window and started a conversation with me. And I told him something like, "You need to research gang stalking." He said, "Gang stalking? What's that?" I said, "It's somebody you might be or something you might do," something to that effect. And then he said, "Oh, gang stalking. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that." And then I started pulling away. And I won't say what he said to me, but as I was pulling away, I'll say it. Can I?
Yeah, say whatever you like.
All right. So now what he said, this particular event had happened to me over the last month. People will come up and roll down their window and just yell "faggot" at me. "Faggot," and then they'll take off driving away. They'd yell some other different things, and it's to build up your frustration over time. So this guy, as I'm pulling away to make a U-turn, the guy yells, "Oh, gang stalkers, like faggot ass, faggots like yourself." It didn't even make sense what he said.
Right.
And it irritated me. So I got back, instead of making my U-turn, I got back over and I sped up and I got up next to him. I flipped him off and said, "Fuck you," fill in the blank. I was mad. I lost my temper and yelled at this guy. Right as that happens, the guy pulls a firearm out of his window. This I have on video too.
Where, is that here on the YouTube channel?
No, I haven't loaded that one. That video I'm saving possibly for court. I don't know if I should load that one yet.
Why not?
Because of a couple things in the video that I'm not sure.
Okay, right.
I will look if I can't explain through the whole thing. Because if people don't know the history of what had been going on with me, they would have no idea why I was in such fear. Also,
So the guy pulls out a gun.
The guy had a gun. So he pulled the gun out of his window. I saw that. I immediately make a U-turn, start heading back to my house. I only live about a block and a half away from where we were. I start going back to my house, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and I see the guy taking off the other direction. I just thought, okay, well, that guy's going off the other direction. I'm just going home. I'm not going to call the police because I keep calling the police about this stalking and harassment, and they just laugh at me. They've been part of the ones that have been involved in the stalking and harassment, driving by me, lights. The Avondale Police Department, yes. And now, again, I don't know if it's everyone in the police department, but I know that some of the police officers in that department were stalking, harassing me. And this isn't just something that is something that happens to me only. This happens to almost all targeted individuals around the world. They're harassed by police, fire, and EMS. And there's an explanation for that about the police, fire, and EMS as well. So, but I'll go back to the incident. So I made a U-turn. I start going back to my house, get into my neighborhood, just about up to my home where my kids are home asleep, and I noticed this guy has followed me to my house. The guy that just pulled the gun on me followed me to my house, pulled up behind me, and he's got yellow and white beacon lights on the top of his vehicle.
Was it a construction vehicle or something?
It was a construction vehicle, like the kind you see on the highway. Construction workers, they turn those yellow and white lights on. So he gets behind me. He's just pulled a gun on me. He gets behind me, turns these beacon lights on, and I'm thinking, I'm not pulling into my driveway. This guy's going to know where I live. My kids are home. He could start shooting at the house. My daughter's bedroom is right there in front. So I pulled off to the side, and I pulled in front of my mailboxes where there was a black vehicle parked. I could pull in front of it, and I was hoping that he would maybe turn left or drive by, or I don't know what I thought he was going to do. I stopped there, and then I started seeing his vehicle pull forward, and I thought, this guy's coming after me to shoot me. I took off, driving through the neighborhood. I will admit that I drove too fast through a residential area. But there was a guy with a gun
following you,
to my home. He starts pulling forward. I took off through the neighborhood. I'm driving through the neighborhood. The next thing I realized, there's a helicopter flying above me with some lights on, and I see a police cruiser with their lights parked out at the end of the I'm not going through the entire story right now. There's a couple parts that I'm not talking about in intention to, but there's a reason for that, and I'll probably be able to talk more about that after court also.
Sure.
So it dawned on me, these people have been trying to set me up for the longest time. Today's the day they did it. I just got set up. I pulled my vehicle over underneath a street light, got out, put my hands up as high as I could to make sure that they didn't say they thought I had a cell phone in my hand and shot. I had just spoken out about the Tempe police officer that shot the guy in the hallway with his AR. I don't know if you've seen that video, but
I think I have. Yes.
Giving unreasonable demands that the guy could not even follow, and then shot him. And I was just speaking out about that, and I was thinking, man, these guys, they're not happy about that. Every time I put a new video up or I talk about something like that, I get a reaction from them. And, I was in fear for my life that they were going to shoot me now. So I just got out and I put my hands up. Turned out that guy had said that I had pointed a firearm at him. And
did you even have a firearm in the vehicle?
Yes, I have always carried a firearm in my vehicle, and the police department actually have one of my firearms in their possession. And there's actually more to that part also, but again, I can't talk about every detail of the of that.
But they know you're a registered owner of a firearm and that you carry it in your car. They get someone to provoke you, and you're just driving in a neighborhood, and suddenly now they have a police cruiser and I guess a police helicopter there as well. Is that it?
There were a lot of police cruisers. There were probably 7 or 8 of them. There were so many people that showed up.
That's kind of crazy. How would all these police officers, let's play the devil's advocate for a minute and presume this is a normal day and you're not being gang stalked. How would all those police cruisers get there? Had anyone in the neighborhood, did they have reason to call the police?
The only thing that I can think of how they might have got there so quick is I literally live across the street from the Avondale Police Department.
But the only thing you were doing was speeding in the neighborhood.
Yes, correct. But this guy called 911 and said
the guy in his car called 911. So he pulls out a gun on you. You're having an argument on the highway or whatever. You flip him the bird. He pulls out a gun and he calls 911.
And I recently got the 911 call, and his story is completely contradicting to the video that I have. I can match up the audio with my video. He says that he held his gun up against his chest, which I've got video of him holding it out of his window with his left arm. He says that he's following me, and then he says he's in front of me, and then the police officer asks him on the phone, is he pointing the firearm at you now? And he's like, yeah, he's pointing at me right now. So this guy's on the 911 call, speaking to the police, saying that he's following me and that I'm pointing a firearm at him. And then he goes back and changes his story.
When did he change the story? In court?
No, on the phone call, during the 911 call. He can't get his story straight during the 911 call.
Wow.
I'll send it to you. Actually, I did a video about my 911 call. It's the last video I did.
Okay, well, let's play that. Let's have people hear that. So it's this one here, targeted individual 911 call.
Correct.
All right, let's play that so people can hear it.
It's kind of long.
Well, is there a part where the call begins that I should advance to? Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I'm trying to see it on my screen. I'm trying to click to it. I'd say about halfway through.
This is very interesting, Michael. Let's see.
So also.
Okay, so I have a black.
Take it back for a moment.
85. Heading southbound on Avondale.
Let's take it from the beginning here.
Pulled a gun on me, and he's saying that while he's on the phone, I'm aiming a gun at him.
That guy looks familiar.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's pointing at you?
Yeah. He's pointing at me right now.
You said you're on Avondale, correct?
Talking really calm.
We're heading southbound, passing Coldwater Springs, passing the police department right now, headed towards MC 85.
Heading southbound on Avondale? Okay, and you can still see that gun pointed at you?
No, he pulled up next to me as we were heading northbound.
Okay.
And he pulled a gun on me.
Okay.
Okay, so now his story changed. He remembered where he had done that, and then he said that I pulled a gun on him. I literally have the guy on video with his arm out the window holding a gun.
You know, another interesting point, Michael. How could you be shooting video, driving, and holding a gun?
You were driving, and then he pulled up to the side of you and pointed the gun at you, and now you guys are going southbound on Avondale, correct?
Yes, the two police officers just fucking passed me just now.
Yeah, they're getting the traffic right now. They're going to do a U-turn right now. What type of vehicle is it that he's in?
It's a Toyota 4Runner. We are heading westbound on Maricopa Road.
Following me.
Okay, westbound on Maricopa. All right, what type of Toyota?
Like a 4Runner. Black 4Runner. White male, gray hat, driving with some sort of yellow and red insignia ball cap on.
Okay, so I have a black and colored Toyota 4Runner. This is a vehicle chasing you, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what vehicle are you in?
I'm in front of him now.
He's in front of me? The guy followed me to my house. He's in this construction type truck. It's got white and yellow lights. Follows me to my house where my kids are sleeping and thinks I'm going to pull into my driveway or something. But now he's saying, yeah, we didn't get that far anyway. Now he's saying that he's in front of me. How did he know where my house is if he's in front of me? Which he never got in front of me.
Good point.
He was behind me the entire time.
That's critical evidence.
I used to be a police officer.
Not going to be not delaying anything. We have a couple officers headed to your location.
Okay. Notice he just said, I used to be a police officer.
Oh, really?
He says
That's
it
what he
again.
said. Yeah.
Done right now. What vehicle are you in?
We just passed 117th Avenue.
117th in Maricopa?
Yes, we were in the roundabout, still heading completely around the roundabout. So we are still going westbound in the roundabout.
Okay.
Out of the roundabout, passing 118th
Okay.
Drive. Coming over the stop sign.
Okay, coming up to the south sign, 118th Drive.
Yes.
Okay. And what vehicle are you in?
That's when we got to my house. This guy followed me 2 blocks after pulling a gun on me. Followed me to my house. And I'm supposed to call the police. I'm supposed to call 911 and tell the police that have been stalking and harassing me also that this just happened.
It's a pretty difficult situation for you, Michael. I mean, obviously,
police cruisers have been driving by me.
You raise a really important point. How could this guy possibly know where your house is? He said he's in front of you. So if he's in front of you and you pulled a gun on him, first of all, why wouldn't he just drive away? I think most people would drive away.
Exactly.
And how did he arrive at your house if he's in front of you? He would have no idea where you were going.
Exactly. Exactly. So he was following. And yeah, I don't. Whoa, I'm getting some feedback now.
Oh, sorry. I just turned up your volume a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah, you noticed too that the guy said he used to be a police officer. I don't even know why he said that in the 911 call, but
that's interesting, isn't it? Like, he used to be a police officer, so he knows police procedure and he knows how to handle a firearm. It's weird.
And I'm just kind of wondering what the odds of that would be of the, since I'm getting stalked and harassed by some of the police, what are the odds that this guy that said this about me just happened to be a police officer as well? I mean, how many ex-police officers are there out there just driving around in construction trucks?
Yeah, I think the most important piece of evidence that you've presented in that call relative to this guy lying is that he says he's in front of you, but he arrives at your house. And,
yes.
And also someone who just got a gun pulled on them and was away from the person who pulled the gun, I think would go away from that person and call the police, not sit there. So he was there when the police arrived, right?
Correct, yeah. And see, I never even saw the police arrive. He had his, what the videos and what the calls, or the discovery sounds like, is a police officer pulled up behind his vehicle with its lights on. I couldn't see the police officer had its lights on behind that guy because he's got his yellow and white beacon lights on, and I'd actually, when I pulled to the right, I jumped out of my truck. I was gonna run from this guy, which I said I would never do. If I ever had some kind of issue, I would always fight back. There's the stand your ground law here in Arizona, and I've always said I would just fight back if I had somebody after me. I made the split decision in the fight or flight moment to go flight. I was going to hop the fence and run away from this guy. And I don't know what made me turn around and change my mind, but I hopped back in my vehicle, and as this guy's vehicle started pulling forward, I took off and ran from him through the neighborhood. And I think maybe what made me change my mind at the last second was, I do have my gun in my car. If I run away and this thing doesn't lock, this guy could get in there too and take that and do something, with it, shooting up the neighborhood. I have no idea who this guy is that followed me to my house. I have no idea what's going on. So,
right.
But yeah, so made that split decision to take off. And apparently there was a police officer that pulled up and parked directly behind this guy's vehicle.
All right. So then what happened as far as the police arresting you? What had you done? Just this guy's accusation that you pulled a gun?
This guy said that I pulled a gun. They took his word. I told them, and I just got some of these body camera, the audio today on some of these that I picked up from my attorney. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You got the audio from the body cameras, but not the video from the body cameras?
The only video, they searched the mailboxes, thinking that I put a gun in the mailboxes and in front of my house. The only body camera footage that I was given, after my attorney requested all of the body camera footage, the only video they gave me was the video of the post office worker opening the post boxes for the police officers at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, almost 12 hours after this incident happened. I got nothing else other than the 911 call.
Did the postal worker find a gun?
No. They opened up all the post office boxes, looked in there. There was nothing in there, and that's the only video they thought that was relevant to this.
Wow.
Not the video of their dash cam in their vehicle, which I'm sure is running most of the time.
Right.
Their personal body cameras, nothing.
Amazing. This has become an epidemic. We have heard from so many people, whether it's the Seth Rich death or your incident, or, I mean, there seems to be a laundry list of missing body camera footage scenarios, and that seems odd. I think we definitely want our police officers to have those body cameras on for their own safety. I feel like a lot of this video footage is being manipulated to, you know, kind of corner, you know, suspected people like yourself. So, okay, let's go back to the court case. So they've charged you now with, you know, pulling a gun on this guy, possession of a firearm, assault with a firearm, whatever that charge is.
Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon here in Arizona carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years.
Right.
So I'm looking at 5 to 15 years in prison if they find some way to make this go through.
Well, see, and that seems to be the goal, because it starts with, we're going to sue this person, we're going to make this person defend themselves and pay a lot of money to lawyers. But what they really want is to put you in legal jeopardy of a crime where you're facing prison. Because then no amount of money can get you out of that if you have a mandatory sentence, and it will certainly put a chilling effect on anything that you might be doing, exposing various, you know, gang stalking and things like this. So, all right, let's just take people back for another moment, because this is very important. When you and I were speaking this morning about, you know, specifically what we were going to cover on today's show, I mentioned to you that, you know, you had told me this in our first conversation. Today, of course, being September 5th, is the 17th anniversary of you receiving this certificate of completion for a statewide mass casualty training event by something called Emergency Management Training Consultants. And we should also remind everyone that you were a firefighter. You are an Army veteran or a Marine veteran?
Air Force. Yeah, I was Air Force crash fire rescue firefighter. So I worked on an airport, and then after I did that full time for 5 years, and then I actually left the fire department and I went into public affairs to become a multimedia journalist, photo, video, and broadcast journalism. Yes. But yeah, this happened while I was an engineer at the time. So I drove it's called a P-19, big green crash fire rescue truck with AFFF foam that they shoot the foam out on the runway in case the airplane crashes. And we'd respond to in-flight emergencies, you know, smoke in the cockpit, all kinds of different stuff. A lot of medical aid. We'd go to the airport terminal, help people that had fallen down an escalator, or, you know, whatever happened to them. That we did everything that a normal firefighter would do on an airport.
Well, let me ask you this. So, okay, so if you were specifically in the division of the fire department that is fighting airplane fires, perhaps this illustration is not as foreboding as I presumed it was. I thought this was a general statewide training for all firefighters.
This was the city of Fresno, actually. This is the City of Fresno Incident Command Training. But they did these training courses all over the United States at about the same time. So there's all kinds of other departments that have gone through this similar training at the same time that we did.
But do they all get this certificate with an image of a plane on fire, or did you get this specifically because your truck was designed for fighting airplane fires on runways?
No, this course was actually taught by Leslie P. Omens. First, yeah, see it right there. He was a San Francisco County fire captain. 30-something years, this guy traveled all over the world and did fire training classes all over the world. He actually worked at the Air National Guard base and was one of my captains at that fire station too. So this class wasn't specifically for an airport incident. It was for any kind of incident that would take place that the entire city would need to get together and work what they call mutual aid and have communication with each other. So the class was the mayor, the police department, the city police department, the city fire department, the county fire department, the sheriffs, the Air National Guard base, different people that worked at hospitals that would get together, and this is where they would learn to communicate and work with each other in case of some kind of mass casualty. How to run triage together, how to get on the same radio frequencies, stuff like that.
Got it. So to be clear, do you share my surprise in retrospect, knowing what you know now that occurred on September 11th, 2001, less than 1 week after this? Do you think this is a remarkably coincidental image for them to choose for this certificate? It
is. And I've thought that for a very long time. More and more information is coming out that they knew what was going on that, what was going to be happening on 9/11. And we've learned that a lot of the air surveillance, the systems that patrol our air space were shut down on 9/11. I don't know if you've heard of Field McConnell talking about that.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that happened leading up to and after that event that I really do. I do believe in coincidences, but not this many in a row.
Right.
And it's it's like the coincidence factory.
Exactly. All right. So back to the court case. So you're arrested for aggravated assault with a firearm, and what? They throw you in jail overnight, they arraign you, they put you in front of a judge?
Yeah, I went to jail, stayed the night in jail, and there are actually perps in the TI world. We call the people that perpetrate these crimes that are the gang stalkers, we call them perps. And when somebody is engaging in harassing you, stalking you, we call it, I'm getting perped by this person. And they even had these people in jail that would come up to me, start conversations, and they would somehow know some of my personal information, and they would start acting weird, and doing these weird little
people in jail who you've never met before have personal details about you.
Correct. And this is an ongoing thing when you're a targeted individual. Your information, when you're surveilled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you never get any rest from this. It drains you. And throughout town, you'll go throughout town. And this is one of the parts that is hard for people to believe, because they would think, well, why would somebody go through that much trouble to do this, to follow you into a store, to follow you through town, to do these weird little skits where they know your personal information? And it's easily understandable, through some of these websites. That's Karen Melton Stewart from the NSA, everydayconcerned.org.
NSA, the National Security Agency or whatever? She's a former NSA?
She worked for the NSA for 28 years. She was a linguist, and she was personally responsible for stopping different terrorist attacks, saving American lives. Passed a psychological evaluation for 28 years, and I'm pretty sure this is her website. Is it hers? Everyday Concerned? Okay, yeah. So my girlfriend's in here with me. So I'm just making sure. But yeah, this is Karen Melton Stewart, her website, and she's actually the first person that I found online when I started researching what could be going on with me. And when I heard her speak about this, she was talking about my life, what I was experiencing. She was naming off the things that they do, following you into a restaurant. You'll go into a restaurant and sit down. There'll be nobody in there. The next thing you know, it's crowded all right around you. People are doing these really weird skits, talking really loud, mentioning things that you may have just been talking about a couple hours before or the day before personally with somebody in your home. I mean, it goes on and on.
Wow.
And when I talk about this stuff, when it starts to sound like it's hard to believe, I think people should question what I'm saying and say, oh, that sounds like some crazy Jason Bourne movie, or that sounds like something out of the movies. They should have that reaction, because this is so ridiculous, so well funded, so many minute details that go into this, that they really should question it and research it on their own and see how repetitive this is on the internet. How many people are speaking out about this? I mean, Karen Melton Stewart from the NSA, Gerald Sosebee, former FBI, Kevin Shipp has talked about not being a targeted individual in general, but the tactics that they use. William Binney. I have 4 affidavits here. I don't know if I mentioned that last time we talked, but I've got an affidavit from William Binney explaining how this program works.
Wow.
From Gerald Sosebee, from Karen Melton Stewart. Ted Gunderson wrote an affidavit before he was murdered. They said it was a suicide, but we all are pretty sure that he was suicided.
Well, we see it right here. These techniques are utilized with the intent to harass, sabotage, extort, discredit, disillusion, or drive a victim to suicide, incarceration, or institutionalization. Those are very, very serious consequences.
This is a slow kill program. They want you to be out of the picture, and it's when they say the government's after you, this is what they're talking about.
Organized stalking, hacking, mind games, perception manipulation, covert harassment, electronic harassment, and other things.
Yes. And there are so many different, I always talk about how this is compartmentalized. There are so many different aspects to this targeting program, and there are so many different groups that carry out different tactics. I don't even think that these different groups are aware of each other sometimes, aware of what they're actually doing to a target. They think that maybe they're just following through town and getting their attention by, raising their glasses at the exact moment when they drive by you, which is something totally normal somebody would do. You do adjust your glasses, you stroke your hair. But when the 500th person does that at the exact moment that they drive by you, you're starting to think like, what? This is impossible.
Right.
It's statistically impossible for this to be happening. That's part of what the PSYOP is. And there's stuff that I won't even talk about because I'm not an expert on those. But some of these people even get what's called V2K, which is voice to skull, where they hear a voice in their head, and that's one of the toughest ones for some of the targeted individuals to explain, because as soon as you say, I hear voices in my head,
you're crazy. Right.
You're crazy. So actually here, since I'm talking about that, this book, this is just Dr. Robert Duncan's book, Project Soulcatcher, and he explains how that works in his book. He's one of the, he worked for the CIA, he went to Harvard, and he developed a lot of this technology for the U.S. government, thinking it wouldn't be used on American citizens. And then it turns out they use it on American citizens, and he explains a lot of how this stuff works.
Michael, I don't know if you saw this article just the other day in the New York Times, and I know I frequently bash the New York Times, so I'm not now flip-flopping and saying, oh, this is accurate. We've been talking about this for months, but I do find it interesting when something as mainstream and normally full of baloney as the New York Times starts to report on this type of thing. But just 5 days ago, the New York Times had this article about doctors and scientists who are coming to the conclusion that microwave strikes may have caused the sonic delusions and the brain damage that the staff members of the U.S. Embassy in Cuba suffered from in 2017. And the article goes on to detail how exactly what you're saying, these microwave frequencies can be used to send signals directly into the brain, including sound waves. And I mean, you know, again, when you say microwave weapons, there's a way to pose this to someone that it sounds fantastic and crazy, but I think we all know that modern medical technology, I mean, at some point in history, the notion of an X-ray or a CAT scan or having the ability to image inside the body seemed absolutely absurd. So why should we question the possibility that a technology could project sound through electronic waves and stimulate the cochlea or various other elements in the brain that respond to electronic signals or vibrations or waves? So if someone's intention was to, you know, drive a person crazy or have them think that there are voices in their head, or certainly there are people who are susceptible to suggestion or possibly already close to being crazy, something like this could drive them over the edge, obviously.
Absolutely. And the B2K, and you were just speaking of with the thing that happened in Cuba, is what they call a directed energy weapon. There's all kinds of different, there's directed energy weapons, there's extremely low frequency weapons, there are ultrasonic, what am I missing there? Ultrasonic weapons, there are laser weapons that they use, and all of us that are out here that these weapons are being used on can do nothing but research and make educated guesses on whether, you know, it's all classified. So, but people definitely get hit with directed energy weapons. A friend of ours that lives here actually about 20 minutes up the road in Peoria, she's one of the people that founded Targeted Justice. She gets, and she's just one of the many, many people, she gets burns on her face from these directed energy weapons. She'll take photos of them. They can go through the wall, they can burn you, they can give you headaches, they can make your ears ring.
Probably could pop a lung if they
yes, exactly. Wasn't that, who was that, Quinn Michaels? Did that happen to? Who happened?
He did suffer a collapsed lung, and we did a couple of stories asking, would it be possible for microwave weapons to have this kind of effect?
Yeah.
And someone who I suspect is involved in gang stalking and harassing and targeting people made a series of videos describing how that was a ridiculous notion. I mean, my rather primitive speculation was that a home microwave oven could be jerry-rigged to do something like this. I don't know why we're seeing Benjamin Netanyahu on this article about Jenny Marie Moore being found dead, but I wanted to bring this up because, of course, we had that incident with the collapsed lung that we speculated could have been caused by targeted directed energy weapons. That's not what I wanted to have happen. Okay, let me get that article up, because I don't know if you've heard about Jenny Marie Moore, but Jenny Marie Moore is a journalist who was investigating the claims of a witness who said that he had been raped by Bill Clinton when he was about 10 years old, sometime in the late 90s. And Jenny Marie Moore was found dead in her Washington, D.C. hotel room shortly after conducting an interview with that witness and sending text messages to various people who she had met through the internet and YouTube and Twitter, explaining that she had evidence that would be very damning against Barack Obama and some other people. And so people have speculated that the fact that she was only 49 and that she died in such a close time proximity to making these revelations and digging into testimony from these witnesses, people found that strange. Now, of course, we're in a time where medical examiners and police, they observe a body, they see a dead woman, there's a ruptured blood vessel in the brain, and they say, well, she had a stroke. They don't really have a way of detecting, did microwave energy, did some sort of directed weapon cause this? And the reason I went to that example of a microwave oven was that that's a piece of technology that we've all experienced. We know that a microwave oven is real. I believe there was a time in 1940 or whatever that somebody showed a microwave oven at the World Fair, where they put a piece of newspaper down on a microwave stovetop, something that was never really productized, but they were able to cook an egg on a frying pan without burning the paper. And this was the amazing thing about it. But we all know you put food in the microwave, you turn it on, some sort of energy heats up the food. So if that energy could be directed at a person, obviously it would be damaging.
Absolutely. And people suffer from this every single day. I can't say exactly when I was hit with a directed energy weapon or what kind they were using on me. But I've had days where I've been out here working, and all of a sudden I get dizzy, lightheaded, go to the ground, almost lose consciousness.
Wow.
After I've drank plenty of water, after I've eaten plenty of food, and then I get up and I start to go downstairs to go grab some water, and my dog is on the stairs throwing up.
Really?
How did both of us end up? And this has happened multiple times. So I don't know what they did, how they did it, what they used, but I really don't feel like that was just my body. And there's other things too. My girlfriend, her head will get ridiculously hot, and I'll feel her arm. You use the back of my hand just like you do when you're checking somebody's temperature, right? And see if they have a fever. I'll put the back of my hand on her arm, on her leg, on her side, and then feel her head. Her head feels like it's going to catch on fire.
Wow.
And if you're going to have a fever, your entire body is hot, not just one part of your body. The temperature would not be that drastic of a change. I mean, there are so many different examples of what goes on.
It's crazy. So back to your court case. So you're arraigned, you're brought in front of a judge. They say, okay, from what we've seen so far, this guy accuses you of aggravated assault. Here's a GPS ankle bracelet, and you're under house arrest. Your hearing is going to be August whatever. At that hearing, they say no prison, no prison. Suddenly they say, oh, but you're going to go to jail. So we see another situation where the justice system is sort of trying to wrangle you, sort of force you into a corner to get you to plea to whatever charge so that you're now a felon, you can't vote, you're going to spend some time in jail. Obviously, once you're in jail, the notion of having somebody beat you up or kill you becomes a much more serious concern.
Yeah, targeted individual going to prison is pretty much a death sentence, because the people that are getting paid to do this out here are probably a little more civilized than the people in prison. People in prison, if they're going to get some kind of incentive for taking out a targeted individual, you're probably not going to have very long. And, so people say, oh, well, if you have to go to prison for a little while, people go to prison, you get out, and go on with your life. And, this is a completely different situation. It's life or death. I really don't think if they do put me in prison that I'll make it out. And
I mean, who would want to go to prison? It's not exactly summer camp. I mean,
no, definitely not me. Definitely,
even if you're not killed, it can't possibly be a good experience. Wow. So what's next, Michael? So you've left this attorney. You declined the plea deal, right? Are you going to trial?
So what we did, what the prosecutor, they thought that I was going to take the plea deal that day. Mm-hmm. I just said, nope, I'm not going to sign it. My attorney talked to the prosecutor and said, he's not going to sign this. What do you want to do? And they said, well, we'll have a meeting. So I will go in with a meeting, and I can't remember the name of the meeting they called it. I should remember what this is called. But I have to sit down with the prosecuting attorney, with my attorney, and a judge that is not on this case, and how they can make me an offer there.
Mediation, is that what that is?
It's not a mediation. It's oh man, I should have wrote that down. It's basically they're sitting down with me saying, okay, so you know what the plea deal is going to be before you take it. This is exactly what we're going to ask for, what we're not going to ask for. And this time they said the prosecuting attorney is not going to request any jail or prison time. So that leaves a small percentage chance that the judge can say, all right, I've reviewed everything. The prosecuting attorney hasn't requested jail or prison.
But I'm going to give it to you anyway.
I'm going to give it to you anyway. You know, just a couple months, just so you learn your lesson. A couple months would ruin me. You know, it's either send me away, kill me, do whatever.
And also, your children don't understand the intricacies of this. They go to school, oh, your dad's in jail. It's terrible. Obviously, you don't want that.
No, not at all. You know, I'm not. My girlfriend lives with me. She has for the last 3 months, but I've been a single dad for a while now. And jail's
not that sexy.
No. And you know, we would have to come up with some kind of plan to help kids get through. When I say kids, my daughter is just about 16 years old. My son is 21. He's an adult.
Okay.
He helps. He works with the business. You know, he works here at the house. It's not like having a couple toddlers running around.
Right.
But it's still
not good. Your daughter's in high school. That would be a rough sophomore, senior year, whatever, for her to endure.
Yeah. And them going through this too. Watching me go through this has been
absolutely
completely draining on them. You know, it's hard enough being a kid in the first place when you have to hear your dad talking about this stuff all the time. And it's when you're targeted, it's hard not to talk about. It's hard to find something else to talk about because it completely consumes your life.
Michael, I'm looking for your case on Pacer, and I just typed in Michael Barden. It brought me a whole list of Michael Barden cases, and then it just automatically backed me out of that screen, but my back button doesn't. Something weird happened. That's very weird.
Yeah, I say that about 30 times a day. That's really weird.
What I'm trying to get at is, who's the prosecuting attorney in your case? Can we look him up?
Yes. I think the case is on Maricopa County. Ooh, let's see here. I have somewhere here. I might have that handy.
So when's your next opportunity to meet these guys? Do you have legal representation? What do you plan to do?
Well, I still have the attorney that was representing me from the beginning. If I accept the plea deal, I have him up until the time I take the plea deal. He walks me through whatever procedures take place. If I decide to decline the plea deal and take it to trial.
So you gave this guy the $25,000?
I would have to give him $25,000, which I don't have the option of doing anymore. I'm completely tapped.
I'm sure.
Money was stolen from me last year. Tax money. I'm supposed to pay some taxes. So
how was money stolen from you? What was that about?
That was when my ex-wife left in April of last year, and there was a lot of things that built up to that, and some money that was supposed to be in an account to pay those taxes wasn't there anymore. So I was either being told, yes, this money is being put into this account, or it was being put into the account and it was taken out, and I can't prove any of it. So, oh geez, I would have to go back 10 years to explain. See, this is where it gets so tough for a targeted individual to start explaining their story. Somebody says, give me the 30-second version.
No, I'm not asking for that. I want you to take the time that you need, and I think that you and I are going to continue to do shows to learn more about this, because a lot of what you're saying crosses over into things that I've speculated about, that we've talked to other guests about, and I think it's very important to see this. I'm also just doing a little speed test on my computer right now, because although our Skype call is maintaining pretty well, the performance over here is pretty slow and bad, so I just want to get a sense for what's happening right now. I'm doing these speed tests frequently, and normally I'm at 300 megabits per second. Right now it's at about 90, which 100 is maybe potentially okay. But I'm really interested in following your case. I feel like a plea deal is not something that you should do. At least get a jury involved. Doesn't that make it harder for them to manipulate you?
Well, it does, but there's so many people involved in this targeting thing that it would not be hard for them to find the right jurors to show up they're all part of the organized stalking harassment, one of the groups or multiple groups, and none of them want me to prove this is happening. Right. So, you know, it could be kangaroo court, you know, set up. And if I would not have witnessed what I've witnessed over the last years, how much detail, how much power these people have, that would never be a thought in my head. I would just think, okay, there are 8 random people are going to show up, which in this case, I guess it would be 8, not 12. 8 random people will show up. I'll be able to explain this whole thing to them and go home.
Why 8?
I don't know. I asked the attorney that. I said, why 8? And he said, well, in this kind of case, there would be 8 people instead of 12.
That's weird. So, all right, you've sent me this website here, Targeted Justice, and this is clearly a law firm that is aware of your problem and is representing people like you. Why not go to them?
I'm sorry, they're not a law firm. They're a group called. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jason.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Targeted Justice is a group that was started by Midge Mathis and Richard Lighthouse. Midge Mathis is the one I was talking about earlier that gets the directed energy weapon burns on her face. She was married to a guy that actually, I believe, owns more than 50% of the cell phone towers here in Arizona.
What?
Yes. He was in business with John McCain. He was linked to John McCain. And turns out he had a double life that Midge didn't know about. She became targeted through this guy and gets it. Yeah, right there, Midge Mathis. And Richard Lighthouse actually was, he worked for NASA, and he had something to do with satellites, built satellites, worked on satellites. He was an engineer, I believe. This guy has been on a few talk shows. Actually, Ella Free down on the bottom, she has a talk show. Richard was on that talk show explaining how they can track you anywhere in the world, how they can listen to your conversations, how they would work some of this technology into this program. I want you to see something. I'm sorry to interrupt you now, but I want you to see something. Now, I'm on this site almost every day. Okay? Okay. So I've logged in. I click Find Parties. This is maybe the 5th time that I'm doing this. Okay. Okay? Type in. First of all, the computer is performing incredibly slowly. I've already typed your last name. There it is. Okay? And I'm sorry to do this, but it's publicly available, so there we go. That's okay. My information, I've told the internet. Now it worked. It's very interesting. It's almost as if someone is watching this broadcast and preventing me from getting to this. Now, is this you? Neither of these are your cases. No. Not you. 2003, 2013. Interesting. Yeah, January 4th, 2018. Well, it's possible that I don't know how to use Pacer that well and that criminal stuff is located in some other way. But I'm interested to know who the prosecuting attorney is. I'm interested to know who the judge is. And I'm interested to know what the outcome is going to be. And if there's anyone in our audience who is an attorney in Arizona, before I volunteer anything, Michael, what can people watching do to support you, to help shine a light on this? Contact me and help me with information on what to ask for, what to do. I know it's an attorney can't give me legal advice while I'm represented, or they're not supposed to, but they can, maybe they can do it kind of like Q does. They can drop some hints to me, send me some. Well, why do you want to stay with this attorney that is, kind of deceiving you, telling you at first that they'd go to trial and now wanting 25 grand? I don't want to. I want to fire him, hire another attorney, and go through this whole process with that attorney. But I'm completely tapped. I almost couldn't pay my bills this month. I've never been in this position before in my life, and I just need money. So you've referred to a business that you run. Can we direct people to that business? Is there perhaps some service or item that you sell that people watching might choose to buy? I'd appreciate it if I could plug my business. Yeah. Yes, please do. It's an eBay store. We have over 15,000 items in our eBay store. And I used to own an antique store in California. It was a 6,000 square foot antique store called Relic Rescue. I got to be really good with buying and selling vintage and antique items. And somehow I merged into mostly vintage and collectible baseball hats. So say you were in college and there was a baseball cap you liked that they made then. They don't make that anymore. I find all those old hats, and I've got them right out here in my loft. 15,000 hats that I keep organized, and people can go on that website and buy one of those. I've got a lot of other things too, black and white photos, different other vintage kind of collectible things.
All right.
And,
so if people want to find the website, what is the website?
Well, it's an eBay store. So you would just go to Google and type in hats around the world, all one word, all one word. HATSAROUNDTHEWORLD. And the first thing that should come up is Hats Around the World eBay. They can click on that link, and that goes directly to the store. And they can search all the categories in the store and search what they're looking for.
I see.
And, most of the things we have in there are around $20. So that's a big help. I've made a couple videos about that on YouTube saying, I'm not asking for donations. I'm not asking for handouts, anything like that. I just shop in our store, and there you go. And it would be really helpful.
So if people are looking for rare, hard-to-find hats, they can go to eBay or just Google hats around the world and purchase a hat to help Michael.
And I also just started on teespring.com. You can make T-shirts on Teespring. And I just made some T-shirts that would be available for targeted individuals to wear out and about. So maybe I can send a link to you later or just post it on my Facebook.
We'll do that, and I'll put it in the description, of course. And then, Michael, I think what we're going to need to do is kind of wrap it up for now, but let's schedule another broadcast and we'll continue talking about this. When's your next court date?
October 23rd.
October 23rd, so that's a way off. It looks like someone has utilized Super Chat to send a question here. Christine Daly says, Project Camelot interviewed a Catholic Church whistleblower, a nun, who was also targeted. She has a ton of evidence and is helping other targeted individuals. So that's Kerry Berner. Is a nun. Thank you for that, Christine, and thank you for utilizing Super Chat on Crowdsource the Truth too. Well, Michael, I hope that people will visit Hats Around the World on eBay and purchase a hat to help you with this legal problem that's been foisted upon you. And definitely we'll be in touch before October. Hopefully you'll get some emails. I mean, I hope this broadcast can help you with some advice, some information, perhaps a lawyer there in Arizona who might be able to help you. I mean, my personal feeling is if you don't feel comfortable with this lawyer and your safety and freedom are at stake, it doesn't sound like the right lawyer for you.
No, it doesn't. One of the hardest things for a targeted individual to do is to find an attorney that will actually represent them and speak about what's going on with them. Because I've mentioned the national security letters before.
Yeah.
Intel national security letter that the intel agencies, the FBI or CIA, whoever wants to issue this national security letter will issue one to an attorney. If a targeted individual goes to that case, they'll say this person is on this certain list. If you help this person, you are involved in a national security threat by helping this person.
So what about just doing it pro se? Represent yourself and just say, I want a trial. Here's my evidence.
I've thought about it. I've thought about it. I've never had to represent myself in court, but I have looked into pro se, and it doesn't seem like you have to provide as much evidence, or they're not as tough on you, I guess. I need to research more.
But you're not a lawyer, so you could get screwed up from doing that.
Exactly. You have to, in court, you have to learn how to ask questions the right way when you get, this irrelevant. Wait, I'm just trying to have a normal conversation. But, there's a different language in court. You have to speak their language, and if you don't, they can tear you down. So you can't just tell your story from point A to point B, and that's my perception. So it really is. It's like walking into a professional football game after you just got out of 8th grade football and trying to figure out how, what to do.
Right. But you may know the rules of football, and if the other team cheats and gets disqualified, perhaps an 8th grade footballer could win.
Well, I would like maybe an attorney or somebody that's had to do a pro se trial contact me, give me some pointers, give me some advice on.
I think it's very risky with a criminal case like what you've got.
Yeah, this whole thing is risky. It's I'm in quite the conundrum. You know,
and you still have the GPS thing on your foot.
I do, yeah. Would you
like to see that? Big yes.
So.
Huh. And so you shower with that?
Yeah, I have to put a plastic bag. I have to put a trash bag around it because they said it's water resistant, not waterproof. So every morning I take a shower. I put a plastic trash bag around this thing, put a rubber band around it. Get out of the shower, go out and run around town in Phoenix. You know, it's tough to wear pants in Phoenix in the summer. Have everybody in town checking that thing out, giving you dirty looks. It's going off random places it shouldn't, telling me I'm in an exclusion zone, especially when I get to my own front door of my home. It's telling me, leave now, you're in an exclusion zone. It's cumbersome, and it's annoying. And I have to charge it every night when I go to bed. Or before I go to bed, it's like 2 hours. So I'm
so tethered. You can't go anywhere for 2 hours.
Yeah, and I'm not on house arrest. I don't have any kind of stipulations. They say you can't drink, you can't go here, you can't go there. The only thing is I can't leave the state of Arizona, and I have to keep this thing charged at all times. And the officer that monitors this ankle bracelet actually will just show up random places while I'm driving around town. Like when I went to the psychological evaluator, I was taking the MMPI test. The ankle monitor officer calls me in the middle of my test and says, "Hey, where are you? I need to meet up with you right now." I said, "Well, I'm taking a test right now." And he's like, "Test? What kind of test are you taking?" I said, "Well, it's kind of private. I need to contact you when I get done with this." And he said, "Okay, well, I'm going to be hanging out. I'll be around the corner." He was within a block of where I was. It's like he tracked me down and said,
well,
"I need to see you."
You've got the GPS there. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then he'll just show up at my house at 9 o'clock at night and knock on the door and say, "Hey, just checking in with you. Check to see how everything's going." And,
what's that officer's name? Or are you not supposed to say?
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say or not. And really, I don't remember his last name. I call him Officer Ankle Monitor.
Well, Michael, I appreciate you sharing this information with us. This is a troubling story, and we're going to follow up with you and stay on this. People should definitely be going to Michael's YouTube site, his YouTube channel. My guest right now, of course, is Michael Barden. Michael is a targeted individual, and we're going to continue exploring his case. People can follow his story more closely on his YouTube channel by searching for Michael Barden, and you can support him in his effort to defend himself by purchasing a hat from Hats Around the World. It's an eBay store, so if you have an eBay account, you can go on there and buy a hat from Michael. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. We'll email and we'll have a conversation offline and set up another interview. I'm pleased that we were able to get through this one without too much electronic harassment. Anything you'd like to say before we sign off?
You know, not right now. I feel like I'm having a tough time making it through this for some reason. I'm getting sidetracked and distracted, and
really?
I feel like next time I need to write some notes down so I can do a little bit better interview with you.
You've done very well. Don't be so hard on yourself. But anyway, let's say goodbye for now. I'm going to be back in less than an hour with Larry Klayman for some legal insights about the confirmation hearing for Brett Kavanaugh, and also to hear a bit about Larry's suit against Twitter and Google and Facebook. So hopefully people will tune in for that. Definitely want to remind people that they should go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth to sponsor the show. You're going to get exclusive broadcasts and programming on patreon.com. And we'll be back with Michael very soon. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you in less than an hour.
Thanks, Jason.